Matt Riddle has been confirmed to be moving to SmackDown. Welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast review of SmackDown. I am Chopper Pete Quinnell. I'm joined by Andy Datson. And today we're going to be talking about Matt Riddle going to SmackDown. Plus, obviously, we've got a review of the full show as well afterwards. But this was a segment that came in from out of nowhere. WWE Hall of Famer Kurt Angle, who's been released, remember, after being special guest referee on NXT this week for Timothy Thatcher versus Matt Riddle, then announced that Matt Riddle is coming to SmackDown. He says, SmackDown people have been great. Look at Taker, look at Edge, look at all these great people. And also Matt Riddle's going to be joining them soon. And then they had a little vignette of Matt Riddle's highlights from NXT, and he's saying bro a lot, etc.
Yes,
so
and he doesn't wear shoes.
And he doesn't wear shoes. It was. It's been reported for a little while that Matt Riddle was going up, and it was speculated that his Fitbit match from NXT was going to be his final match in the promotion, and that seems to be correct because now he's going to be going up to Smacky D's. So I'm quite curious to see how Matt Riddle's going to fare on the main roster, because I get the feeling that he could do really well. Obviously, Matt Riddle's amazing, and I think his kind of demeanor could appeal to a wide audience of him just being a chilled out bro who likes to have weed, probably. And I feel like that could appeal to a lot of people, so he could organically get over just with his demeanor. Plus, he's a very good wrestler as well. However, I do have my concerns that his demeanor could rub some people up the wrong way backstage. He's already had run-ins with people like Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. So if, he gets on the wrong side of Vince McMahon on a day or something like that, it's very much something that Riddle could do. Vince McMahon is in a bad mood and Riddle just goes like, hey, bro. And Vince is like, you're buried now.
Yeah.
I'm slightly concerned for him, but I hope he does well.
I have two concerns. The first is that the SmackDown writers or the main roster writers will just pepper everything he says with jokes about getting high, and it'll just get so tiresome after 2 weeks. Because
that was his character on NXT.
I know, I get that, but like there's something about main roster jokes that aren't as funny as NXT jokes. I don't know if it's just the different writers, but this is going to be, I'm a high flyer. Oh man, that was dope. Oh, marijuana. That sort of thing. And my second concern is that his rumored first feud is with Baron Corbin.
Yeah.
And that immediately stinks of, oh well, terrible. You're just a babyface, and you are just a new babyface on SmackDown. Here's Baron Corbin to beat.
Yeah.
There are so many other people who I'd have preferred as a first feud for Matt Riddle. I get they're sort of both tall guys, and I'm sure they might have a couple of good matches together. But I'm not interested in seeing this as his opening feud. I wouldn't mind seeing it down the line. Obviously, they're going to have to face off at some point together. But yeah, I wouldn't have. If it was me doing the booking, I wouldn't have gone, oh, Matt Riddle's coming up. Oh, what do we? Oh, Baron Corbin. That'll get the people excited about Matt Riddle.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only other person that could have possibly been worse would have been Dolph Ziggler, because that's the perpetual. You're from NXT, face Dolph Ziggler. Yeah. But another thing I'm slightly concerned about is him just becoming a bro machine. I mean, he's already just says bro a lot, but I feel like that's going to be his entire character, is he says bro, that's his character. Yeah. And I really hope that's not the way they go, because I feel like in their heads, marketing stuff with the word bro on it is probably a good idea for them. So I could see why they'd lean in that direction and just be like, just say bro all the time. Just make it so obnoxious. Just say bro in every sentence. Which I really hope they don't do.
A further concern is that he won't be able to do his flip-flop flick into the crowd, because then they'll have to be disinfected.
He won't be able to do it right now, yeah.
No, but let's go positive. It could be awesome. It could very well be amazing. Matt Riddle, as we said, is a brilliant wrestler. He's a brilliant character. He can be funny. He can be really intense. So that there's absolutely no reason why he can't be a success on the main roster. I just hope that he's treated properly and not kind of. I mean, there was a rumor that the reason he's on SmackDown is so he doesn't like come across Brock Lesnar. So as long as he kind of stays in line backstage and doesn't piss anyone off, with his kind of super chilled out, trying to kind of rile people up a bit. As long as he doesn't do that, then I think it's going to be okay. But I think I can't see him being anything other than a babyface for a long time. His character doesn't fit heel unless he starts doing more like stronger drugs.
True. I think it would be really interesting to see a Matt Riddle heel. I think I've wanted it for ages because I've seen that intense side of him when he gets super fired up in his matches and he just goes crazy and, you know, starts screaming at the crowd and stuff. He's so intense. And I feel like if he could channel some of that into a heel character, it would be amazing. But I just don't think he cares enough to do that. I think he's way too chilled out. He's like, it's fine. I'll just be me out there. So but I do think, like I said originally, I think he's got such an affable way of doing things that he could very naturally get over, even if WWE didn't want him to get over in a specific way. I reckon he could still do it anyway because he's just got such a connectable figure that he's got on him. He's just such a magnetic personality. That's what I'm looking for. That people will be drawn to him regardless. So I'm optimistic about Matt Riddle. I've not been optimistic about a lot of NXT call-ups in a long time, not since Balor really. But fingers crossed they can do okay with Matt Riddle. Anyway, let's get into talking about the rest of the show, which started off chaotically. So it cold opened to the car park, the parking lot of the Performance Center, where we saw Renee Young was kind of running down a situation where Elias was on the ground, seemingly having been hit by a wrecked car that was in the background. Elias, there were ambulances there and police trying to find out what was going on. They were said that there might have been a hit and run. It seems like Elias has been hit by a car. And then they saw Braun Strowman was an eyewitness, and he was there being like, "This is crazy. I hope they catch that SOB, etc." And then they were saying that it might have been someone who was drunk that did it. And then a policeman who was there kind of got the registration from the car and saw who the rental car was rented under, and it said it was Jeff Hardy. Now, already, that's got some alarm bells in my head going because I'm like, are they doing a DUI angle with Jeff Hardy? Doesn't sit right with me, but okay, we'll play it out. And they start looking for Jeff. They find him. He's in like a bush nearby. He looks very grubby. He's very confused. And in Renee Young's words, he's inebriated. He looks to be inebriated.
He's fallen on hardy times.
Oh, that's... Yep. And so then the policeman and Jason Jordan made an appearance out of nowhere. Love you, Jason Jordan. I miss him.
Returned.
Yeah. And Jamie Noble came out and all that stuff. They were trying to help him to his feet. They were trying to ask him questions about, did he own the car? Has he been drinking? They said, no, he smells of alcohol. They took him away. They arrested him. And they took him away in a police car while Elias got stretchered into the ambulance and got taken away to a local medical facility. So I have some mixed feelings about this segment.
Oh, he's such a social justice warrior, Pete.
I know. Everyone's going to call me a snowflake, but I just didn't like this segment that much. Like, I understand. If people enjoyed it, I get it. I couldn't get invested in it because it was so on the nose. And I think because it was so recent, because this is something that Hardy's obviously had serious addiction problems throughout his life, even as recently as less than a year ago. I think he got taken in for a DUI in like last July or last October or something like that. It was really recent stuff that he's had. And just to kind of use that as an angle really didn't sit right with me. It's like because addiction doesn't really go away. You're just kind of forcing yourself to not relapse, essentially. And to have that and be like, can you act like you were when you actually got arrested in real life, please? Is like, it just something in me, it just doesn't sit right at all. And I really struggled to look past, just see it as an angle. All I could see was like, this is like Hardy's real life, with him just being taken away in cuffs for DUIs and things like that. I mentioned this to you before we went on the air to try and put it in a perspective that I think where I'm coming from. If, for example, you had someone on the roster who had some serious mental health issues and at one point in their life had tried to take their life, for example, and then you ran an angle where they tried to commit suicide. To me, that is horrific. Like you could never get away with that at all. And for me, this is very much the same thing. This is someone who's had some very real life trauma and very real life experiences. And they've just exploited that and tried to replicate it in a real sense, in an angle, to try and further a story, which to me was really bad. And I know by the end of the show, well, not by the end of the show, by the WWE.com breaking news after the show, that he wasn't actually inebriated fake in kayfabe. God, what are words. In kayfabe, he wasn't actually inebriated. We know that by the WWE.com exclusive by the end of the show. But just this segment, it really threw me off. I did. Something inside me didn't like it.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying. One a sort of counter argument I would say is like, look, it is a real story. They are trying to make a story on SmackDown, and yet it might not be in the best taste. But at least they're going with something. They're running with something. I know, like, Jeff will have signed off on it. I know it might have just been because he's like, okay, yeah, whatever, that's fine. But yeah, he will have signed off on it. He'd been okay with it. There was just slightly other aspects of that didn't quite make sense. I mean, the car looked to be completely undamaged, apart from the hood was popped up.
Yeah, that's how you know it's wrecked, when the hood's up.
Yeah, exactly. Poor Elias is kind of like collateral damage. But then again, if I've been hit by a car, the first thing I would want to see is Renee Young standing over me, so that's fine. But yeah, it was an unexpected way to open SmackDown. But it is they are trying something new as well, and that's why, while it may not have been in the best taste, I'm not going to be too hard or too down on this segment, because it was something that when the show started, I was like, oh, what's this? Of course, at no point did I actually think that Elias had been hit by a car. They're not going to put that on the first thing. But as soon as you saw Jeff Hardy, you were like, okay, well, pretty sure I know who's behind this. And the next segment sort of proved my suspicions.
I do agree with you in that it's good that they're doing a story, because SmackDown has been very repetitive for a long time, and just kind of rerunning the same stories and having the stories that they have weren't very good, bar the kind of Mandy, Otis, Sonya, Dolph stuff that they had. Most of the stories weren't very good on SmackDown. So having a story, and by the end of the show, there were multiple stories coming out of it. Big thumbs up, SmackDown. I like that they're actually doing stuff with the brand now, which is great. I thought this was a bad way to go about it, personally. But yes, the next segment, I really enjoyed this backstage segment, kind of going off the back of that Hardy Elias opening bit. We saw producer backstage, Adam Pearce,
the world's biggest human being.
He is huge. Kind of backstage with like 12 other guys, and all of them were just being like, so what's going on? Because in the night it was supposed to be Daniel Bryan versus Jeff Hardy in the IC tournament, and it was supposed to be AJ Styles versus Elias in the tournament. So they say, well, we can't have either of those matches now. So AJ was just saying, well, I think it's pretty obvious. Now it's me versus Daniel Bryan in the final. We both just get to go to the final, right? And everyone was like, wait, no, hold up. We can't do that because you haven't fought enough matches. And it eventually came to it. I really enjoyed the segment. I thought it was very organic. They all came across as like being kind of... They're in character still, but they came across as very genuine and very kind of... It's what their characters would say in this kind of situation. Sheamus and King Corbin calling him a pathetic junkie or whatever it was, stuff like that. And then it came to it where they announced a 10-man battle royal. Whoever wins that will face Daniel Bryan later in the show, and AJ Styles gets to go to the final because he didn't want to fight anyone, which I really like. AJ Styles is the heel. Daniel Bryan's like, I want to give other people opportunities because he's such a good babyface. It just all made sense, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it was good. Like you said, everyone kind of said the part that you expect them to say. It was interesting just to see Drew Gulak back after being released for a week. Shorty G is just back now, I guess. Yeah. So that was good.
Which means he's definitely the hacker. Just Shorty G, confirmed hacker.
Of Shorty G, he, for me, was the MVP in the Battle Royal, as was to be expected. It was a really fun match. The order of eliminations was Lince Dorado got chucked out, then Drew Gulak, then Grand Metalik, then Dolph Ziggler, King Corbin, Cesaro, Nakamura. Then Shorty G was thrown out illegally by Cesaro after Shorty G had just eliminated Nakamura. And then Sheamus was the last man standing after he eliminated Jey Uso. So Sheamus won the match, but yeah, Shorty G was easily the kind of standout star. He eliminated Nakamura, Cesaro. Did he eliminate Corbin as well?
I can't remember.
But he eliminated several people, and he just showed off how awesome he is and how his name and the way he's been treated is so unjust. Once again. Yeah.
He's so talented, and we saw it again later on in the night as well. But I really thoroughly enjoyed this battle royal. I'm not a huge fan of generic battle royals on TV shows because generally it's just here's a bunch of people you don't normally see. Most of them are just going to hide in the corner, and occasionally you'll see like a little throw. But there was tons of wrestling in this battle royal, loads of spots. Everyone kind of got a chance to shine a little bit, and we had some stories coming out of it. Some characters were built through it. I thought it was really good, really well paced, and really good spots throughout. I thought it was really, really good. After that, we had Sonya Deville backstage cutting a promo about her opponent that night, who was going to be Lacey Evans. They had a pre-scheduled match, Sonya Deville versus Lacey Evans, which on paper is actually a pretty cool match. I really wanted to see Sonya get a win over Lacey, who's a bit more of an established name on SmackDown. She starts cutting a promo, and Lacey Evans just walks into the shop behind her. Sonya doesn't know, and she's just kind of standing there for the whole promo. And then afterwards, Lacey just walks up to her and just pushes her over.
Yeah,
okay.
I am tired of Lacey Evans' gimmick now. Her gimmick is, I'm a former Marine. I say the word nasty to people who I don't like, and that is it. There is nothing more to it anymore. She used to be the kind of, there was the whole sort of, I'm a proud mum, I'm a proud former Marine thing. That was, she had like a bit more character. She was sort of passionate defending her family when she was facing up against Sasha Banks. But now it is literally, you're a nasty. And then the commentary goes, remember she was in the Marines, which I know in WWE, being a former Marine is a gimmick you can have for your entire career, and apparently it doesn't get boring. But she just sort of was standing behind Sonya Deville, who said, "Oh, I beat up one blonde bimbo last week. I'm going to do it again this week." And then she walks up and pushes her over, and says, "You're a nasty." And then they had a match which was fine, and then it ended in a double count out, and then Deville got thrown into the corner of the announce table, which looked rough as anything.
That looked a brutal spot to take, but I actually quite enjoyed this match. I'm not, like you said, I'm not super into Lacey Evans' character, but I thought these two had some actually pretty good chemistry. I think they worked pretty well together. It's just a shame that the finish was a bit pants, because I was really looking forward to Sonya Deville actually getting the win over Lacey, because I figured she needs the win. Lacey doesn't. There's no reason for her to not win this. But but then they had a double count-out finish, which was a lame double count-out. Even for double count-out standards, it was a bad double count-out as well. Because
I didn't realize the ref was even counting, and then it just went, oh, that's it.
The match is over.
Oh, yeah. Right, okay.
It's like Lacey was just
Sure.
beating up Sonya, like kind of in the apron. She got the apron and put it over Sonya and just kind of beat her up a bit. And then she rolled Sonya out a bit more. And then that was the 10 count. It's like, you should have done way more outside the ring before you got to 10, for sure. But then she took that. Yeah, she just threw her into the corner of the announce table, right on the corner, on her back. Like
kidney ribs first. And I was like,
no.
Yeah.
I want to take that. Yeah, it was horrible.
But it's a women's feud, and there aren't that many of those going around. So there are other women's feuds. There's other teasers of women's things on this show. So it's good to see that Sonya Deville is getting what seems like a push, even if it's sort of a slightly ill managed.
Yes. So I'm hoping this leads to a match between the two. Potentially a backlash. Yes, that's still a thing.
I didn't realize you were going to do that, and I jumped slightly. So
potentially a backlash. I'd really like to see another match between them two. I really want to see Sonya get a win over her because I think she's a star in the making.
Yes, but speaking of people who don't have a character other than the fact that they former Marines, we had another Forgotten Sons promo. It's the third one in 3 weeks. Why aren't they on the show? This is getting a bit tiresome. Because all they do is go, we're former Marines, we battle for our country. Now we're wrestlers. And it was it was more awkward this week because is it Cutler?
It's Blake this week.
Blake
cut the promo.
Who cut the promo, who is the only one who wasn't in the army. So he goes, he was in the army. He was in the army. I wasn't, but I like the army. We're gonna win those belts.
Yeah.
And then they're sort of name dropped later by the New Day as their main rivals, but I don't buy into that because they beat the New Day clean on their debut, but they've done nothing since that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that this is the third of 3 promos because each of the 3 members has led a promo segment. Riker's done one, Cutler's done one, and now Blake's done one. I'm hoping that's the end of it. They've each done one promo each. Now they can come back to the show and start wrestling again. So yeah, fingers crossed they can do that. And I'm kind of into Forgotten Sons versus New Day right now. They've beaten them clean. I think they have something to prove. I'd be into seeing that match because I think Forgotten Sons have actually been pretty good on the main roster so far.
Yeah,
in terms of wrestling, anyway.
It's not the match that I'm not looking forward to. It's just it feels very like prior to when Sheamus was coming back. It was just endless promos of him saying exactly the same thing, just in a slightly different way, which is what they're doing. But as I said, we had it was like Alexa and Nikki were backstage, and then they were kind of going, "Oh, you'll never guess it! I've got a surprise for you!" And then Biggie and Kofi came on, sort of appeared to say, to reveal they were going to be the guests on the moment, Bliss, and they called it a Tag Team Champion Summit. They do that a summit on SmackDown.
God, it's dumb, isn't it? But anyway, they had the Moment of Bliss segment next, and there was some comedy with those two teams to start with, where Biggie got some coffee beans out of his singlet and made coffee with just water, no hot water, just water. And then Alexa was going to drink it, and then she didn't, and she passed it off to Nikki.
But Nikki,
comedy.
She'd made some Scotch pancakes for my grandma's recipe. So she'd make some Scottish pancakes, which are basically the small pancakes, small thick pancakes.
Yes.
So that was hilarious.
So funny.
So the New Day asked who their biggest rivals are. They name drop the Forgotten Sons. And then Alexa and Nikki kindly remind us that there are two proper women's tag teams on the main roster. I get, like, obviously you got Bayley and Banks, but they're not actually a tag. They are two single stars who are just friends, whereas there are actually only two women's tag teams on the main roster, which is Bliss and Cross and the Iconics. And that is it. Now that Fire and Desire is split up, there are unless they start making new tag teams out like Franken teams, the feuds for the women's championship tag team belts are going to be between Nikki Cross, Alexa Bliss as champions, and Bayley and Sasha, all the Iconics, or as we've seen before, they tried to like make Carmella and Dana Brooke work for a couple of weeks. It's just going to be a bunch of teams. We're going to have Liv Morgan and Natalia going for them or something like that. They just don't care about these belts.
Not at all. It's almost as if introducing them was a bad idea. Hot take. They really should have built up the women's division first and had proper women's tag teams before they introduced the tag team belts. Just my opinion. But yes, Bayley and Sasha Banks come out and interrupted this segment. They get into some beef with Alexa and Nikki. And then they do the same story again, which is Bayley makes a match on behalf of Banks against Alexa Bliss right then and there, except Banks is wearing high heels and she's not ready. Ooh. So Bayley runs to the back and grabs some shoes for her. Okay. I'm a big fan of long-term stories. Long-term stories are great, and we've been calling for WWE to do long-term stories for ages. But what I meant by long-term stories is not the same story told 7 times before we actually get to a resolution, because they're still building this tension between Banks and Bayley, but it's the same tension all the time. It's not being built upon, it's just being replayed. They've done exactly the same thing before, where Bayley has made a match for Banks when Banks didn't want it, and then Banks had to wrestle. It's the same tension. It's not building tension, it's the same. We start at the same level and we finish at the same level. It's just, it's still there.
What we get the start of every week is they are good friends, and then there's a bit of tension, and then the next week they're friends, and then there's a bit of tension, and then the next week they're friends. Like you said, it's not building to anything. It's not. There's not more tension. It's the exact same amount of tension every week.
Yeah.
And I'm not more interested in it than I was 3 weeks ago. I'm the same amount interested in it. If anything, I'm slightly less interested because I'm just going, well, I know what's going to happen next week. Sasha Banks is going to get put into a match that she doesn't want to be in, and then she's going to go, Bayley, what are you doing?
Or like Bayley will accidentally say something that upsets Sasha, and Sasha's like, did you mean that? And Bayley's like, nah, I'm just kidding. And then they make up. It's like, well, it's the same thing every week. There's just a little bit of tension.
Like,
and it's not adding.
There are slow burning feuds, and then there is this, which is kind of every now and then someone accidentally lights a candle. So, but then we had the match, which was Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss. Pretty short. It was fine, whatever. We had Nikki Cross and Bayley just screaming on commentary, which was incredibly off-putting. But
I will say, as a slight plus for that, they may have been very loud. However, one, they made Michael Cole and Corey Graves laugh on commentary, which was quite funny, seeing them corpse. And also, they actually paid attention to the match, because a lot of the times when you have people on commentary, they just talk about themselves and like different feuds they're in and people they don't like and all that stuff. Pretty much the whole time they were just cheering on the people that they were in the corner of, which was, it made you pay attention to the match a bit more than normal. It's a slight plus, but it's a plus nonetheless. But I thought the match was pretty good. Sasha gets the roll-up win after Bayley and Nikki get involved. Bayley pushes Nikki into Alexa. She falls off the top rope, and then Sasha rolls her up for the win. And next week, we're going to have Bayley and Banks versus Bliss and Cross for the women's tag team titles. I assume Bliss and Cross will be retaining, though I think having the women's tag championships on Bayley and Banks could be quite fun also.
Yes.
Who knows?
But then we had, for me, even though it wasn't long enough, probably the match, the best singles match of the night. I did really enjoy the Battle Royal. But we had Cesaro versus Shorty G, which is, of course, set up earlier in the night. Just they're both really good at wrestling.
So good.
It was just so smooth, so slick. Lots of like roll-up attempts and counters, and no one could get one up on the other. But then Cesaro just suddenly goes, "Do you know what? I'm going to hit a last ride," and just picks him up and just lifts him and just slams him down. I'm just thinking, okay. And then he got a 2 count out of it. I was like, oh, okay. I did want. It was the right call for Shorty G to win, which he did in the end with a. Was it a roll up?
It was a roll up, yeah.
Yeah. So.
But it was
great
really,
match.
It was really fun, especially for the amount of time they got. And they left so much in the tank if they wanted to do like a pay-per-view caliber match with each other. And I'm hoping that because it was like a fluky roll-up victory, I'm hoping they're building to more down the line and we do get Cesaro versus Gable on pay-per-view. Maybe, a Backlash. Because that would be great, I think. It would be an awesome match. So after that, we had Otis and Mandy Rose. They were on vacation together, poolside somewhere. And this was so weird. So basically, this was just basically a softcore porn reel for Mandy and Otis. I loved it.
It was so bizarre.
Yeah.
But so Otis was pouring them drinks. And he said, I'm going to go for a swim, Matt. And he goes, do you want to come? And Mandy goes, no, I think I'm a bit tired. I'm going to have a nap. And then it does that kind of dream thing where it goes, woo. And then Mandy has a dream about Otis kind of being Daniel Craig, like James Bond in the water, sort of rising up. And
Mandy's just really horny the whole time.
Mandy is so horny, and they just start kissing, and it's one of the strangest kisses I've seen.
Mandy simulates ejaculation with a suntan lotion bottle. It's just it's bizarre. It's so strange. And then she gets woken up because in real life, Otis just does a cannonball in the water.
He dives
covers her in water. And then she's like, oh no. And then he's like, oh, well, come swimming anyway. So then she did. And then they made out some more. It was weird. It was so funny, though.
He dives straight into the man deep end. And it was just 5 minutes of me going, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that was great.
It was hilarious. It was so funny. I don't know what the point of it was, what it's building to or anything. No idea, but it was so funny.
It's just keeping a plate spinning. Like, look, totally. This is what they do when they're not wrestling. And it was a bit of fun. It's the Money in the Bank briefcase has lost a bit of momentum. I guess they're kind of like keeping that in the back pocket until maybe when fans are around.
I forgot he was Money in the Bank, Mr. Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Well...
but then anyway. we had the kind of Matt Riddle promo that we discussed earlier.
Yeah, and we had Kayla Braxton backstage, as you'd like to say, and Sheamus interrupts her, and they're still harping on with that. The Intercontinental title was the only title I've never won, apart from the Universal Championship. But that's fine. Then we got a recap of Miz and Morrison versus Strowman from last week, where they challenged him to a 2-on-1 handicap match at Backlash. Still going. And then we got the announcement of Bliss and Cross versus Max and Bailey for the titles next week. Then we got the main event, which was Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus. And on Daniel Bryan's entrance, this is our SmackDown highlight of the week. Because this was something very special. This was during Daniel Bryan's entrance. They show some shots of the crowd doing the yes chant along with Daniel Bryan, which is nice because he's not been able to do the yes chant for quite a while because there's not been a crowd. So occasionally they played it off as a joke and he's gone, yes, there's no crowd. Ha, 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 ha. So now there was some NXT people in the crowd. Now he can do the yes chant along with them. There was one person was really excited about this.
And if I was going to pick someone to be really excited, I would have gone, who's a real big baby face who we can like be in the crowd, like getting really excited, really pumped up, someone who's like a really happy-go-lucky baby face. They chose Jessamine Duke, who is well known for being quite a heel on NXT. But she bloody loves Daniel Bryan. I won't
let's
say
take a look. She's really excited, guys.
Oh man, so
excited. And for podcast listeners, just think of the most excited yes chant you can picture. It's that times 10.
Yeah.
She bloody loves it.
Especially, you see the bloke in the background going.
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah, you compare it to the guy in the background. Take another look at the guy in the background. And compare it to Jess Majou. It's brilliant. It's so funny. That's our SmackDown highlight of the week, because she's nuts. But this match itself, Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus, I thought was really fun. I thought it was really nice to see Sheamus not have a 30-second squash match, and for him to have a full match and to get to show what he can do against a guy like Daniel Bryan as well, and the history they have together. Yeah. It made for a really fun match. There was a point in the match where Sheamus kind of was dominating Bryan, and he was shouting at him. He was like, I'm responsible for the yes movement. That only started from WrestleMania when I beat you in 18 seconds. I made the yes movement. I was like, yeah. Oh yeah, that is when it started. God, that was a really cool thing to mention. I really, really enjoyed this match. And it got to the end point where it looked like Sheamus was potentially lining up for the bro kick, potentially going to beat Daniel Bryan. But then Jeff Hardy came out, who, lest we forget, had been arrested at the start of the show. No explanation as to why he was there. He just came out onto the ramp, and the crowd were very excited to cheer for the man who ran over another man earlier in the night. And then Daniel Bryan hits the running knee, gets the win. Hardy gets into the ring, beats up Sheamus. Sheamus runs away, and Hardy's like, yeah, I'm here. And the crowd are like, yeah, go Hardy. You get that DUI, son. And then the show ended.
But I guess mystery solved, and we know now that I'm assuming we know now it's Sheamus, and we know why he did it.
We don't know that, though. They didn't say it in the episode. And while it might be, that's a logical step to take, they didn't say that. And after the show, on WWE.com, breaking news, here's how Jeff Hardy was at SmackDown. They released a statement. I've got a thing from Wrestling News Co. here that said, it was explained by WWE that Orlando police released him from custody after he successfully passed the required field sobriety tests, and therefore absolving Hardy of public intoxication charges, driving under the influence, and the hit and run on Elias. WWE did not explain how Hardy being sober would absolve him of a hit and run.
Yes. So I get so he's not publicly intoxicated because there's no... And he cannot have been driving under the influence. Correct. However, there's no reason why he can't have done the hit and run, because it was his car and he was found near the car injured.
Yes.
So unless they just go, I didn't do it, and they go, well, all right, fair enough. Yeah, if you say so.
Argument.
I mean, you weren't drunk, so you can't possibly have done the hit and run. So off you pop. In fact, do you want to lift? Because you probably need to get that back there quickly. It did feel a bit Voldemort-y, where he sort of only comes back right at the end of the school year to attack. He really cares about Harry's education. So Jeff wanted to make sure that Sheamus had a good match before he returned.
Exactly.
And crowd loved it.
And the thing is, though, we didn't know any of that at the end of the show. We didn't know any of that. It was just Hardy's escaped from prison. He's here now. Remember, he was drunk and ran over Elias. He's probably still drunk, and now he's beating up Sheamus. The crowd, the whole time. It was weird. It was super weird. But yeah, it seems like we're going to be getting to a thing where Sheamus has framed Jeff Hardy. That seems like the next logical step. But they didn't bloody say it on the episode, which just makes him turning up super weird. And I believe you've created a meme for this occasion, Andy, because we're going to get to a point where Sheamus did it for the Intercontinental Championship.
He did.
A great meme, mate.
Thank you very much. It's quite clearly was Sheamus. If it's anyone else, it's completely weird. It's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, I think possibly he might have had help from Baron Corbin because of it was Elias who got hit. And Baron Corbin and Elias have got a bit of history, or it might just be Sheamus and Elias just happened to be the guy who was in the other match.
Or it might have just been Corbin. Or it might have been the SmackDown hacker, because it's always the SmackDown
Maybe
hacker.
He hacked the car. Maybe there was no one in the car.
Yeah.
And he hacked the car to drive on its own.
Exactly. Yeah, car mystery solved, guys.
Mm.
Anyway, showing off the air with Hardy in the ring. Overall, though, really like this episode. Load of stories got made, which was really refreshing. There was some really fun wrestling throughout it. Love Shorty G, love Brian, love Sheamus. I think the Banks Bliss match was pretty good. I think the Battle Royal was great. There was just it was a good episode. And I will say, with the crowd as well, the time absolutely flew by on this episode. Sometimes when I'm watching SmackDown some weeks, I'm like, oh my God, I'm only halfway through. And I got to the end and I was like, oh, it's Brian versus Sheamus. Wait, is this the main event? And I was already like nearly finished it. Yeah, it was much better with the crowd there. Really, really liked it. I would give the show a 4 out of 5. Personally.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 is fair. There are a couple of things I don't like, but the majority of the stuff, I was like, this is really cool. A lot of the matches are really good. And like you said, it's so refreshing to see some storylines on SmackDown. I wasn't bored by the end of it.
Yes, which is a great achievement. We have no patron shoutouts today because they've all been done for the month. So that is all the time we've got for this episode of the WrestleTalk podcast. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please press the videos that have just appeared on the screen to catch up with the latest awesome WrestleTalk things, and the button in the middle that will make you become a pledge hammer on Patreon. I have been Chubba Pete Quinnell. I've been joined by Randy Andy Datson, and that was SmackDown.